Oh, hello, my last recording of my bullet journal flip throughs for the last 6 months of 2021, because it's in this notebook, as well as all of 2022, the video corrupted. So I gotta do this again. The first time I did it with music, with the flip throughs, but now I'm just gonna kind of go through, because there might be some stuff that you'll want me to explain to you. So this one I started in 2021, toward the summer. And some pages are like stuck together for some reason. Anyway, so I pretty much just decorated with stickers and like washi tape stuff. And then here's what I was doing for my graphs, what I was tracking, the pages read, owned versus not owned, format, and then I had a series TBR, so when I would complete a book, I would put what the next book was, and I would also put a date on it that I needed to read it by, just so I wouldn't forget what I read. So last year, 2021, I read 121 books. I also tracked on this little shelf the books, so I colored it in by the genre, which had the colors right here. And then I also did little symbols for if it was a diverse author or an MC. And then this little thing if it was indie. I was going to try to read the whole Bible, but I didn't wind up reading any of it. But I still like this little flappy door thing that I made. And then we have gratitude. So just cool things that happened that year. And then I started watching BookTube again that summer of 2021. So this was a readathon that was happening. And there's this. And then I was journaling some stuff, because I had got some tarot cards. So those were all like tarot stuff. And then I had a Avatar theme. This was days read, TBR for that month, what I'd hauled. I know you can't really see the text on it. The books that I read, this was the favorite book that month. And then this was an Avatar read-along, so I chose Fire for the team, and then Royal Readathon. I was on Sidekick's team. Sometimes I did readathons, but I never signed up for anything, so I just kind of did them on my own. Magical Readathon. That's when I started really like watching YouTube again, so that was in September of 2021. And these are all just the little page printouts. So I'm going to kind of quickly flip through those. I eventually did all the prompts, pretty much. And then Bookopoly-thon. I really liked doing that as well. Then I had like a little witchy theme. And I read The Love Hypothesis. This was my favorite for that month, so I did a lot of quotes from the book and little images that went with it. And then here's some more stuff that I did. Apparently this was when I was watching America's Next Top Model. I was binging it so hard. Oh my god, some more tarot stuff and journaling. And then October I had a lot of fun with. I came up with my own bingo board. And this was my little TBR that I came up with, and I kept adding to it because I kept reading books that weren't on it. Hauled books. And then the books that I was reading, this was like my little progress bar. So for each 10%, I got to mark off another square. This was, I don't even know what this is. It's my books, but I don't know what it was about. More stuff with my books. More stuff with my books. With dates I was doing stuff. And then read, hauled. And then we're into November. Journaling. And then we went straight to December. So I did hardly nothing in November. I was so ready to be done with, with the year. Oh, and then hauled versus read. And then all that. and then all that. This was just plans for the next one. More books that I had hauled. And then we get into 2022. So, I read a bunch of stuff. So I kind of stuck with the same format for quite a while, where the first page of the month was all the books that I had read that month. And I was really big on like stats and stuff. That was another tarot spread for the beginning of the year. This one I think was one that someone actually did for me on TikTok. So it was interesting. And then this was where I was daily logging how much I was reading of each book. As you could see, I was doing a lot of reading. And then this was stuff that I had already started before the year, so I would know how much I'd actually read. And then here's pages read when I would complete books. And then I had more stats for if stuff was like diverse, how it was diverse, all that. This is kind of a cool one. So I was doing the daily pages that I read. This is really hard when you're reading audiobooks because they don't have page numbers. So I was having to do calculations and everything. It was crazy. So like one day I read 507 pages. That must have been a huge audiobook day because it's not possible for me to read that much in a day. So then this was weekly, what books I was reading and how many pages I was reading. This one's a cool one that I did. So here would be the days of the month. And then on the top, I would write down when I started a book. And then I would mark in a little bubble. So in January, I decided I was going to try a different book off my shelf every day. So that's why you can see I start a new one every day. And then some of them I finished, some of them I didn't. So when it had the checkmark box, that meant I finished the book. And then this was more of my daily logging. This was for a show where there's like, you have to get 10 lights where you're matching the couples. So this was me being analytical, trying to figure out who the perfect matches were. I got super into it. I was like, if I was on this show, I would be able to figure it out. So this was me figuring out who the matched couples were. Okay, and then I just did a little doodle down here, who knows, and then like the 90s smile. Then we get into February. February was a crazy month. I read 33 books. Most of them were Cassandra Clare, because I was listening to my friend's like entire audiobook collection. I pretty much did all of the books last year, and there was like 80, so I did quite a bit. So yeah, February was huge. And I wanted to do a book a day because halfway through the month I realized I had a book a day read on average. So I just went with it. This was my pages read per day graph style, and the colors represented different books. So some ones you can tell I just stuck with the same book that day, and some I read from like 4 different books. So that's how I did that. And if it went off the page, that means that I read more than 500 pages that day. So very often, I would read more than 500 pages in a day, which is a lot. But also, I got a job working at a pizza place. And so there's like 2 hours of prep before there's customers. So I was listening at double speed, which is like 4 hours worth of an audiobook. Plus, I would listen to it on the way to and from work. And then also when I would walk my dog. Because we lived in an apartment, so he couldn't just be outside by himself. So I had a lot of time to listen, and I also read books physically, too. Also, something to note is in January, I was house hunting. So it's insane that I did finish as many books as I did. But our first offer on a house wound up getting accepted. So this was what was going on that month. And then in February, we were going through having the house inspections and all that kind of detailed stuff that you have to do when you buy a house. So it was really hectic. We didn't know if we were going to get it because we were asking them to pay for the, whatever that fee is. It's like $5,000. And we wanted them to pay for that. And so we didn't do any down payment or anything for our house. Same little chart that I showed you last time. But in this one, the gray boxes at the end of it meant that I finished a book that day. So I finished a lot of books. And then here was my daily pages, as well as whether I listened to audiobook, read an ebook, or physical book. So you can kind of see how that varied. I did audio every day. And then this one was me tracking whether it was an indie book, had diversity in it, whether I physically owned it in another format, did not own it, or DNF'd the book, and then notes on what kind of diversity it was. And then this one was next up. So because I was reading so many series, I would write down the next part of the series, and then when I would finish it, I would color in the little heart so that I would keep up with it. So I was just really going through series. And then for these, with the daily ones, I would put a star by the book when I finished it, so I'd know that that would be the last entry for the book. I was just really into stats this month. Look how many books I read. Oh man. So I would go through on previous ones and color in too once I'd finished it. So it's kind of an ongoing thing. And then I had to make more of a chart because I ran out, and then this was a continuation as well. So I was just doing a lot of books, and I'd read all the Defy Me series, it looked like, that month as well. And I did count the novellas as different books. March, you see a very less books read in March, and I will tell you that it looks like all of them were audiobooks. This was my moving into the new house and moving out of the other house. So we had to did all the packing that month, and then we had to clean everything to try to get our deposit back, which we didn't get back because they always find ways to keep that money from you. But anyway, same sort of charts you saw in previous months, hauled versus unhauled. Soon you'll see that I start dropping some charts. This one, the purple blocks meant that I had finished the book. And then need to be read pile. So these were books that I had started in a previous month, like you can see here, that I still needed to read because I hadn't finished them. More of that same chart, except for I realized there were a lot of days where I was reading more than 500 pages. So I made it go all the way up to 1,000 pages. And as you can see here, I had a day that was like 850. So that was a lot of reading. I kind of got exhausted. I think I was reading too much. So that's quite a bit, considering I didn't actually finish that many books that month. But look how much reading. Want to read / started reading books. More of the daily charting. This was also my birthday month. And then we come to April. So I did this little cute thing. And then I have this. So kind of settling into the house. I had also got a new job at this point, and I believe I was still working 2 jobs. So I was working at a pizza place and a warehouse. So it was a lot of stress. And that's why you can see I wasn't reading as many books as I had been. So that chart, and then upcoming reads. And then this one, I just kind of changed the color theme. And then, so here's a combined chart that I started doing. So instead of tracking the daily stuff, I started doing this. So I would color it in. I would have the total amount of pages that the book was. And then I would circle it if I didn't finish the book, but that was the last that I was reading of it that month. I would circle it. Otherwise, it would just meet the number at the end of it. And then I would put how many I actually read for that month here. Because if I had read some the previous month, that's the part that's gray. So it would have my actual count. And then the want to read. Again, I was doing a lot of series. And then we hop into May. So it started to pick up again. Because by that point I was moved out of the other place. We lived in a triplex. And then here's like my little stats page again. And then this one. And then we get into June. I love little rainbow themes. I just love rainbows. And it was also Whatever-a-thon, which had a rainbow theme. So I went with it. This was when I really started watching BookTube again. And I think I had even made my channel, posted like 2 videos, and then I didn't do it. So then I wound up deleting those videos, and I didn't start back again until a year later in May of 2022. But this was Whatever-a-thon. and I went all out for whatever-a-thon. I finished 4 bingo boards for whatever-a-thon. Because you were able to, like, you could do, like, 3 things. So I was very strategic with my reads to get the 3. And some of them were activity things. This was Utopia Con, so it was a writing convention that I went to, and there was a book signing and everything, and I went to a writer's retreat the week before in Nashville, so that was really nice. Here was my little bingo boards. And then we get into July, and I did a watermelon theme, so everything was watermelon colors. And then the dark green, well, I guess I didn't really have an indicator for when I finished books that month. I just kind of did it. Because I indicated it on here, so. Then this was the different genres, because I was splitting them up. And then y'all don't need to see my weekly, daily to-dos. There might be personal stuff in there. And then here was my August, and I did draw that. I was so happy with it because I don't draw. So I'd used like a reference picture and I just looked at the reference picture and then drew it. And then I also drew this. I was really proud of that. It was just marker and pen. So this was like my little stats page. Instead of having individual pages for the categories, I stuck them all on this spread. And then here was this. So I didn't read as much. And I started putting dots at the bottom when the books were finished. And here was the page numbers for what I read each day. Or the total, rather. I'd stopped doing the daily things. To-do list. I don't know what all that stuff is. It looks like stuff my husband wanted. I don't know. Anyway. I don't know what that was either. What are you? Oh. This was for books for one of the readathons. Books to read. And then we had Bookopoly-thon. Oh my gosh. So I had so much fun with this. So this was September. Are we into 2022? Yes, y'all, we are. I was like, I felt like I was on BookTube for one of these, and I was, because I started it in May. So I remember this month. Y'all probably remember this month, too. I think I got a bunch of subs this month. But I did a Monopoly theme. And little money. And then, yeah, more Monopoly stuff. This was when I was seeing what similar channels were, just so I could kind of get a gauge on myself, like people that started around the same time, how channels were doing and stuff like that, just to get some perspective. Some people aren't about stats. I'm just a stats nerd and a marketing nerd, so I could see kind of if my channel was doing about the same as other people's, or if it was doing better or worse, and then that would give me a little bit of like, okay, if it's doing a lot worse, what are the reasons for that? Should I be more consistent with my channel? Things like that. But one piece of advice I'll always give you, because I've done YouTube like 3 different times now, is never tie your self-worth to the amount of subscribers that you have. Because then you're just going to get sad. But so don't ever tie your self-worth. You should get that from other places, not YouTube. Because a lot of it is just luck. Some of it is algorithms. You never know the reasons why your channel is doing better or worse than another channel. So just, I would not advise being hard on yourself about that. So that was that. And then we move into October, November, and December. And I had a goal to fill up this whole book because I took like almost a year and a half to do this one, and I get sick of notebooks after a while, so I wanted to see if I could fill one up, and this one was really cheap, and it had the horrible like blocks that were very obvious, so I was like, okay, I am good with this one being messy. I don't feel pressure. So I just did it. I never wind up sticking to stuff that I have to track daily like this. I just don't. This was all done in calligraphy pen, and then I've got some washi tape. And it was a cheap calligraphy pen, and you know what? It actually worked with the paper, whereas my actual calligraphy set that I got with fancy little pens and stuff, the ink bleeds through the paper, so I can't even use it. So I need to find some paper where I can use it, because I really enjoyed just the feel and the sound of writing with a calligraphy pen. This is when I started the book club, the I Read Dead People book club. And then I made my own bingo board for the season. So I had 3 prompts for each month. So it was October prompts, November prompts, December prompts. And I did good. These were books I wanted to read by the end of the year. And then I had little TBRs, which I'll be honest, I just kind of put in books that I'd actually read. And I never made a future TBR. Here were the books that I read for each month. So it was different colors. So this one was October, and then November, and then December. And it went with the book that I was reading for that month. So I had Frankenstein, and then I had Dracula. And then I just went with the blue for the Christmassy winter snow. Because it also would have been green and purple, because the book cover was that color. But here's my October. These stickers actually glow in the dark, so that was really cool. The books that I started, and then when I finished them, I would fill it out. Pages read, stats. I had 3 different color inks, so you can kind of tell when the pen ran out and I switched to a different color ink. I had so much fun with this one, using different stickers and talking about different things that had happened during the book. I really like this creative style of journaling because I like to be artistic, but I'm not very talented with that. So something that just has a pop of color like this was really nice to work with. Then I did the videos that I read, the book acquiring tag, so I could just really get into it and talk about exactly how I felt about each question. So I had a lot of fun with that. This was a book that was picked up by my library to read for that month, and it was just all quotes. And then we had other things that I was tagged in. This, I traced a leaf that I saw outside, and it had an ombre, so I did it, but with the Frankenstein colors. Everything for this month is in the purple and green, so it went with the book theme for that month. Hey honey, I made you a pot pie. I don't know what you're showing me. Bear's being really cute. Hey baby. Hey baby. And Hubs brought me a thing he got from work. One of the people had handed them out. So it had little Kit Kats. How cute. So anyway, back to the flip through. My hand is kind of cramping, but at least we're almost done with this one. Then here's this. This was me doing the pink book face off. And then I started journaling, but it was less artistic because I was reading a ton. So I just didn't really have time. This was me. I was watching almost every video from Tangible Reads, kind of figuring out what her tastes were, books that were interesting to me that she had reviewed, whole bunch of different stuff on here. Still haven't made that video. Sorry, Courtney. I will eventually do it. I've made the thumbnail twice now. Once for a January, and I've made it again for a February thumbnail. So it will happen. I just haven't really been in the video filming mood. And then I got stylistic again. I really like doing the woof. So that was fun. And then here we go. Little pops with stickers. And then we have the Zodiac series. More book tags. More book tags. This one was original one that I came up with, and then this one was also an original. So this was when the Taylor Swift album came out for Midnights. And I was in a little bit of a slump in October. Most of the books that I read were from Courtney. So those were both Courtney books. This one was a Courtney book. because I for hers, I went all in. So I actually read like 5 books that she had read. Then we move into November, and I went like most of the month without reading because I had hated Dracula so much. So I did like a quote and then talked about how boring it was and how I had to DNF, and I'd listened to the audiobook for 11 hours and didn't feel like I knew anything that was happening. So it was just a massive waste of time. Another Courtney book. And then this was where I said, okay, I'm done. We're toward the end of the year. I think I was close to 200 books. So I was like, let me do 24 books in 24 days. Well, I wound up doing it in like 11 days. A lot of them are short. You can see the page counts, but this is just my proof, y'all, that it doesn't matter how long a book is. If it's 12 pages and it's its own little book, you count it as a book. Why not give yourself credit? Not everything needs to be 500 pages. It's still a book. If it's an individual story, it's a book. So, here's me talking about all the books that I read for that challenge of the 24 books. And most of them were also audiobooks, which is how I did it so fast, because I'm not a fast physical reader. There's nothing wrong with that, though. And then stats. And I'd read 27 books that month. But I didn't start reading until like the 15th of that month, so that's a lot of books. And then we move into December, which was Wuthering Heights for the theme. But I just went with the blue and I used some stamps. And I read 24 books. I didn't think I was going to finish that many for that month, so I had to add a page. And I'd also ran out of room to review books, so I added this. And then I have the stats. The videos that I did that month. I thought I was going to do more videos, which is why I had 2 pages, because I was planning on doing a video every day for December, but I had kind of did that on accident in November, and I just got really overwhelmed. So I didn't do that, and also it was just like very saturated because everyone was doing it, so I kind of got stressed out with how many videos were coming into my feed. So I just didn't. And then here's me journaling about some more books. This one was one I read for Princess, because I was going to do Princess for my next person to highlight. And then a tag that Haley had created that I just thought was fun to do for Christmas. That was like the one with the songs. And then these were spreads I thought I would include on a another bullet journal. We're almost done with this one. All of this that you're seeing is from 3 months. That's just a lot. And yes, a lot of them are short. Like all of these were less than 2 hours audio. And I put them on double speed. So some of them it only took 30 minutes. But I count everything because everything should count. So yeah, that was that. And I read 226 books. So that was the end of that bullet journal. Then we get into my other bullet journal. And you're probably like, what? You just showed me January through February. Yes, but I had another one. That was my yearly, my yearly one. Are you ready? Okay, so here's this. And this one actually has this year's stuff in here as well. So, but I've already done a video showing you my bullet journal spreads for 2023. So that's already on my channel. But I am going to show you what I did in here. So Aster is a character, Estrella, that's in one of the books that I've written. It's not published. Yeah, so I was like, I want to be like Aster. She's very smart. And so I was like, I want to be like her. This is kind of how I want to feel when I'm reading books. And so I gave a different word for the letters of her name. This was all the books that I had on my bookshelf. I wound up hating this spread because I did unhaul, so I kept having to use whiteout, and then the marker that I was using wouldn't really go over the whiteout, so it would wind up bleeding all the words that I put over it, and I just really didn't like it. So I had started this in July of 2021, so it lined up with this yellow one. And then the end date would have been 2022, because I haven't been using this year. Because I just got tired of it. So I'm probably going to like tape it together at some point just so I don't have to look at it. But I wanted to have a visual representation, and I just made a different color for each year. And I colored the spine that color so I can kind of see how much I was reading each year. Then we get into one of the other spreads, which I did use again for this year. And this was the genre spread. So it had the months across the top and then the different genres. And I would color it in when I would read the book that month. So I could kind of see if there were genres that I was reading every month, like these top 3, or if there were genres that I was reading very little of. Then we have my favorite one to do all year, which was this one. So this one is where I kept track of how long the book was, so the page length. And I would color it in according to the color that went with the pages. So the bright colors, pink, orange, and yellow, were short books. So they were under 300 pages. And the cooler colors, which were green, blue, and purple, were long books. So they were more than 300 pages. And I wound up running out of space, so I had to create these little tiny boxes along the sides. I just was not expecting to read that many. These were books that I had been looking forward to that were coming out, and I colored them in once I either bought them, or if I had read them, I would color them in too. Then I had my top 22 books to read in 2022, and then I would go over them in black when I would finish them. So I read one book, and then I had this little flippity. Yeah, so out of the 22 books, which it wound up being were a series, I counted as one book. I only read one off of that list because I tend to not read what I want to read. I tend to put other books ahead of them. So that's why this year I did not create one of these lists. Then we have my stats, which you may have already seen my stats video where I have graphs with all of this information. But if you're curious, it was really interesting to me that the first 6 months of the year and the last 6 months of the year, I read pretty much the same amount. So 112. And then this. And then this one, though, was like 8,000 pages more than this, even though it was only 2 books different. So that was interesting. I also had that huge boozy unhaul that I did where I got rid of like 128 books. That was pretty awesome. And then this was my end of year stats. So you can see how I did with that. H means haul. This means unhaul. TBR started at 555, and at the end of the year, it was at 420. And a lot of that was due to unhauling, not due to reading. Then we go into my subscription boxes. I did slightly better with this list. I actually did finish The Kiss Curse. I don't think I read that this year. I read it last year, so that I need to fill out. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so now it's accurate. So these were like book of the month books, and then a couple were from like it was like, I can't remember what the thing is called, but it was this book, and this book. I had a 3-month subscription to the one where it has gifts that you open on certain page numbers. I cannot remember what it's called. It's like a fairy tale box. I don't remember what it's called, but those books, yeah. So I read a couple of them, but not many. I had already read The Kiss Quotient years ago, but I didn't go over it because I wanted to reread it so that I could read the next 2 books, because I didn't realize that the characters show up in each one. And then I have a continuation of the gifted books. So Goodreads giveaways, and then my husband got me that one. I know we do not talk about this series, but it is in my bullet journal. I do like the illustrated versions. I listened to all the audiobooks a couple years ago for the first time, but I have not physically sat down and read them. So I had started collecting the illustrated editions, so my husband gets me the next one every year at Christmas. But I am not going to be supporting that author by starting any of her other books outside of that one series. And I'm just not going to be like promoting her on my channel, but that happened to be there, so I thought I would explain that. And yeah, here we go. More gifted books. So some of these I got from lovely TikTokers because I was doing a lot of stuff on TikTok at the beginning of the year, and then I completely fell off of TikTok. So some of these were gifts from that. I got these two from one of my friends, Tracy, because I had edited one of her stories, so she sent me books. And most of these are Goodreads giveaways. All of these were Goodreads. My husband from Christmas, my best friend for my birthday, and I had also got her a book for her birthday. TikTok friend Bree, and then also my best friend got me this one, and then I got this one at the writers convention. Christmas from Hubs, Hubs again. Christmas from Mother-in-Law, Christmas. I think that might have been Christmas. TikTok friend. And then all of these were Goodreads. So, and that one was Goodreads too. So most of them were Goodreads or Christmas. Then we have my honorable mentions. So they were books that I had had throughout the year where I stuck them on this next page for my top 10 of the year, because they were contenders. So when I finished them, I was like, yes, this book moved me. This book made me emotional. I really enjoyed this book. So I had put it on that. So all of the ones that didn't make my top 10 list got put on my honorable mention. So these were favorite books for the year. So if you like my reading taste, try these. Okay, now we're going to move into the top 10, which is these, and I wound up adding 2. So I wound up adding number 11 and number 12 because I just really couldn't decide once it got to it. These are in order of my favorites for the year. So again, if we have similar reading taste, highly recommend. Yeah. Then we had several pages for series. So I wrote down the series. The black ones means that I had read that book prior to 2022, or prior to 2020, the summer of 2021, actually, because remember I'd started this in July of 2021. The pinks meant that I had read it in 2022, I believe. So, because I don't think I'd switched the color. I think I just kept using pink. And then when I would finish the whole series, I would color in the little stop sign. And I could still continue to use this, so I probably should, since it's in here. I might as well use it. So, like, Ice Planet Barbarians, I'm on, like, book 15 now. I know I said I quit. I was like, I DNF after the second one, but I wound up reading it again. So we will have a video about that and why I chose to do that. It'll be like its own little thing. But I did pretty good with doing a lot of books from series and continuing them and trying to knock them out. And then I still had room. Then we move into the A to Z challenge. So originally I was like, I need to read some more ebooks because I have such a big Kindle library. But I only read 2. So I read Zodiac and I read Concrete Rose. I did complete the A to Z challenge, but it was not with ebooks. But this was the plan. So here you go if you need a sheet to give you ideas for what to read for A to Z. And then I had wish lists. So books that I wanted to get. I did get The Kiss Curse. I also got Calamity for Christmas from the Hubs. He knows me so well. Because one time he was going to get me books from Target. Because there was a, like, they do a game or book deal where it's like buy two, get one free. So he was like, what do you want? And of course I like completing series, and both of these ones that I'm doing are the third books in series that I already owned. So of course I wanted to get the continuations. Jay Kristoff is another naughty author, and I'm doing the same thing that I'm kind of doing with JK, which is where if I already had an interest in a series before they started showing their tail, then I could go ahead and finish that series. But I'm not going to be buying or supporting any of their future works unless they clean up their acts. So it's like a soft ban. Some authors I have an immediate full ban, but those are authors where I haven't had any sort of connection to them or their work. Because it's easier to do that, even for minor offenses. In that case, it's just easy, so why not? But oftentimes I do the soft ban where I can enjoy the one series, but I'm not going to be giving them any future support. So I think that's up to everyone to make your own decisions, and no one should be judging anybody else based off of who they read. And saying just read it from the library is not what people think that it is, because that still supports the author. So that doesn't work, y'all. It doesn't work the way you think. You're still supporting the author. They get data for that. Like, the publishers know when a book is being read from the libraries. Anyway, here was my A to Z. So I did it all three ways. So I had the book titles that I read, and I did it the hardest way, which is where articles like A, An, and The don't count. So I made it to where the first word of the book was literally that letter. And then I did the last names of the authors and then the first names of the authors. And I did allow where they had like initials. I did allow that, especially with like the Q and the P. I just was not finding full names for those. Then I had book club books from the library. So I reviewed them as I finished them, and I really enjoyed the book club books. And this was how I started reading more mystery thrillers, because that was what they were always picking. So I was reading books that I never would have picked up on my own, like Karen Slaughter and Stephen King are not my go-tos. So I got to kind of see that I can read books that are outside of my comfort zone. Then we go into 2022. So here's all the books that I read in 2022, and they are color-coded by month. So this was January, February, March, April, May, June. I love this little company. I love their stickers. This is like my personality right here. Unicorns and rainbows. That's me. June, more July, August, September, October, November. More November and December. And that concludes my bullet journal flip through for the 6 months of 2021, as well as the rest of 2022. And y'all have already possibly seen my video for this, for 2023. I will do a little flippy do, just like, where you can kind of see what's going on, just like this. So yeah, watch that video if you want to see what's going on. Here's the books that have been 5 stars that I've read so far this year. I'm doing amazing. Amazing! But anyway, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As far as what I'm going to be doing for Bujo next year, I do have all those spreads that I kind of just poked at right here. For different areas of my life, and it completes this bullet journal. So this one will be done by the end of the year because all the spreads are already made. And then this one is what I am using to document my 2023. This is not completed in any way as far as January is concerned. I am very, very far behind, but I will show you kind of the general layout that I'll be using for each month. So I'll have the introductory page that has the month. And then that will go into the videos that I do for that month. I did have computer problems, and then it was just hard to get back into doing videos because I was enjoying my time off to just read. So you probably have noticed me kind of pull back from doing as much content lately. There will be more videos that are coming, but it might be a little less. I do want to start blogging more. So what you might start seeing from me is a mixture of blog posts that I share in my community tab that maybe I have the energy to make a blog for, but I just don't really feel like doing a video for, as well as actual videos. So there will be standard videos. I am extremely happy with the Dice of Chaos TBR game. It's just done so well for me. I really like it for my reading. And I also want to do some longer videos that might take me a month to do. So like right now I'm reading all of the Ice Planet Barbarian series. So I will have a long video where I talk about like all 20 books. So it's coming, you know, you'll see. And then I have my books that I read during the month, as well as my star ratings. And then I have my DNFs at the bottom. And then I go into journaling for each book. So I'll have the book cover, the genre, and the star rating. And I'm just using a gel pen that is the same color as the book cover's primary color. So I just journal it in here. And I have been doing this for every book, but I'm very, 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 very behind. So I still have several to catch up on for January. So, but that is the style of what's going to be happening. And maybe it'll start to get more artistic at some point. But I think I've just been a little stressed. So I'm working on it. But yeah, this is almost an hour-long video, so I'm going to go. But again, thanks for watching. The only other thing that I'm going to be kind of using this year is I'm actually using a planner again. And I've also kind of laid off of this week, so I really need to get back into it. But I've already set up the first 3 months with stickers and everything. So, yeah, I need to get back in it because I had a lot less anxiety when I was using it in January and I was referring to it daily. Yeah, I've just kind of been off this last week, but also relaxing. So it hasn't felt stressful. It's just me not really using systems that do help me be more productive. So I'm going to get back into that at some point, but that's all I have for you today. I still have not started any of the books that were on my list for the last Dice of Chaos because I've mostly been listening to, I've only been listening to audiobooks. Let's be honest. I've read 2 chapters of a physical book and I've finished an ebook. But I'm reading this, which is a library book. I do not want to be reading a bunch of library books this year, but this one is written by the librarian and I agreed to host a book discussion for it with one of the book clubs that I'm in. So they asked me if I wanted to host one of them, and because I had recommended we read this one by her, I would also host it because I know that as an author, you're not going to want to host your own. She was embarrassed enough that I had recommended that we read her book for one of the months. She was like, I'm going to get you back someday. So I was like, okay, I will host it. So then she can just sit there and listen to us talk about her book. Or maybe she won't even show up for that one because it'll be too awkward for her. I don't know. But anyway, I've read the first 2 chapters. It is a Christian fiction. And I was not expecting there was going to be any romance in here. But there was on like chapter 1. And the character's background story is so good. And I'm like, this is going to be a good book. It's going to be a good book. So I'm really excited about that. So I am reading that. And then I also got another library book, but I really don't want to be reading a bunch of library books this year. So I don't know if I'm going to read it or not. But I did really want to read it. And that is Merry Little Meet Cute. I wanted to get this for Christmas, but nobody got it for me. So I'm not really buying books this year, at least not physical ones. I've gone ahead and told myself that I can buy ebooks because they're so affordable. So when they're on a good sale where they're less than $2 and I have genuine interest in it, I can go ahead and buy that book. But I also want to keep up with those and make sure that I'm reading them throughout the year and not just buying them. But otherwise, if I have books that I really want to have on my shelf instead, just read them from the library. and I have not read any from the library in January, so I feel like it's okay to maybe do it with like one book a month. So these two I think I would really like to read. But also I haven't been doing physical reading this month, so I'm just struggling, y'all. But this will be it. Anyway, I'm super rambling, and y'all didn't sign on for this long video, so... Or maybe you did. You did click it, so it's your fault. I mean... But I am gonna go. So, I will see you all in the next video. That's it. Bye!